As a writer who grew up in 80s Britain, it comes with the territory that my work steers towards the hauntological. In its most basic terms, hauntology is the creepy feeling we get from the recent yet culturally distant past. Brown 70s wallpaper and fuzzy old telly, pylons looming over the horizon, and the genre classics like Children of the Stones or public information films. These things settled inside us like asbestos to metastasize in later life as either creative output of our own or just buried nightmares chasing us into adulthood. The earliest one for me was the look and read story, The Boy from Space. A strand in a schools programme meant to develop children's literacy skills, the anthology series also included stories on a crooked fairground, pigeon racing, and pony poachers on Dartmoor. Originally airing in 1971, Boy from Space concerned a silver-faced child in a jumpsuit who crashed to Earth in a ship and spoke a backwards language. I'd have been 5 or 6 by the time the school's well-worn tapes got round to me, sometime in the mid-80s. But this was a Britain still sodden with the UFO lore of the previous decade, when local evening news casually spoke of strange shapes in the sky and playgrounds of children who'd seen something land in the woods.
Now, the children say the object had a large dome, it was cigar-shaped and was silver in colour. Well, to find out more, I've just been on the phone to their headmaster.
And do you believe it?
I believe that they saw something which is not common in the environment in which they saw it, but whether they've interpreted correctly, I wouldn't know.
Quite a mystery. Well, from a Welsh school to a school of Wales.
The villain of the piece was the eponymous Thin Man, who gave slow and silent zombie-like chase across puddle-soaked quarries, as though coming for the very audience. I was terrified of the Thin Man, so much so that a cliffhanger promising his appearance next week had the young me stressing out for 7 days. When the morning finally came, I tried and failed to stay home with a tummy ache, and was feeling sick as we were led into the school's small TV room. Sat cross-legged on the carpet, the discordant theme music played from a wobbling VHS tape, and then there he was, the Thin Man. Me and a little pal let out screams and ran for the door, a teacher prying our fingers from the handle and corralling us back in front of the television, where we were forced to watch. But among those formative experiences, something else sat with me for years, something which also had its origins in school's television. Historically, this is one of the first things I can remember being really afraid of, and thus also fascinated by, and was the reason I had to cover the small black and white portable in my bedroom with a blanket when it was switched off. The memory, too, sat under a sheet in my brain for years, until eventually the internet confirmed its existence, in message board threads from others who, like me, had never forgotten one particular image. Titled Interference, it went out over just 3 15-minute episodes in 1985, and its writer, Jan Mark, was herself a former teacher. Rewatching now, for anyone who sat through the programming so neatly parodied by Look Around You, there's a Proustian rush from the sight of the school's clock alone. After being suckered in by jaunty ragtime piano, it's a sinister opening, feeling more like Hammer House of Horror or Nigel Neal's Beasts. It's even got the classic Hammer setup of city folk making a new home in the countryside.
There it is, Traveller's Rest. Peace and quiet.
They're so far out in the sticks, it's not even connected to the power grid, having to rely on a generator in the shed.
Gordon Bennett. It's a machine to make electricity.
And the youngest child is obsessed with the idea that such an old house must be haunted.
Shut up.
Might be ghosts. Do you know if there are any ghosts?
What, love?
Ghosts. The cottage. Is it haunted?
At one point, she's shown wandering the garden looking for any forgotten graves. But this is less the story of a haunted house than a haunted family. Dad is absent for much of episode 1, away at work and due to join them later, and even invoking his name is a constant point of tension, like he's the Candyman.
Look at that, a real fireplace.
Enjoy it while you can. When Dad gets here, he'll have everything electric.
Unable to get inside the generator shed to turn on the power, the only option is phoning him so he can bring the key, where there's an obvious vibe.
I'm sorry. Yes, Dad. I'll tell her. Dad? Dad? Mum? I rang Dad.
What?
Thought he might not be so cross.
When will you ever learn? Well, what did he say? Why can't you think, just for once?
The first hint of something paranormal comes when the brother wakes the older sister to show her his torches on the wonk.
This is more like a pulse.
Maybe there is a ghost that feeds off electricity.
The idea of ghosts feeding on something is a common trope, whether it's batteries going flat during a ghost hunt, or poltergeists said to get their power from negative energy. As a child devouring Usborne books on the supernatural, I worried that my own fear of poltergeists would be the thing that ended up summoning one.
It's not doing Morse, is it?
No, it's regular. I've timed it. 74 to the minute.
Like a heartbeat.
This fritzing torch coincides with the arrival of Dad.
What?
It can't be.
All right then, where's the emergency?
What emergency? What are you doing here, Ken?
I get back exhausted from Derby, expecting one night's peace, and what do I find?
I didn't ask you to come.
What entirely slipped me by the first time was that the plot of this programme for 8-year-olds centres around domestic abuse, which must have added to its unsettling nature. There was little more frightening at that age than the tension of a house where the father ruled with an iron fist. If you were lucky enough for it not to be yours, we all remember scary dads of mates. One boy in my class had a dad so shouty, nobody ever went round for tea more than once. The opening scene of episode 3 shows the youngest child acting out scenes of domestic violence with her toys. And this is a home where nobody feels safe, ghosts or not.
That's all we need.
What's the matter with you? You don't own the whole damn road, you know.
And that.
Bloody stupid leaving it a narrow lane like this.
Generation Z can't even imagine the forbidden thrill of hearing the word bloody in school as an 80s child. One Christmas end-of-term showing of Danny Champion of the World inadvertently brought the roof down with the line of dialogue, "I don't give a toss." Anyway, since Dad showed up to shatter the peace, the family are walking on eggshells.
Stop yelling!
This place is like a... What have you been doing since you got here?
I've been trying to cook on that fire, crawling about with candles.
It's like home, isn't it?
Well, that...
Well, don't stand there like a waxwork. Go on and load the citron.
All the tranquility of country living is no more, as gone are the lamps and fire, now replaced with Dad's office equipment.
Not the same, is it?
Don't Don't.
I suppose that's your mother. She doesn't hang about, does she? Well, answer it, someone.
But the phone's not working properly.
Gran? Gran! I can't hear you.
Bad line.
Awful. Sounded like somebody crying.
Crying on the phone?
Sounded like it. No words, just a sort of wailing.
When he calls Gran back, he can hear breathing on the line.
But there was somebody there. I could feel it. Like in the dark. And you know there's somebody else in the room.
This is where we get to the moment which scarred every child who saw it.
What do you want?
I can't work the telly. All I get is hundreds and thousands and crackle.
Oh, fix it.
You kids with your flat screens and digital boxes never had to wrestle a picture through the static with rabbit ear antennae. And growing up on the south coast, our summer television often carried the spectres of French programmes, half visible through the snow. What they get on the screen is the thing which stayed with me for decades, burned onto my soul like a Windows 95 taskbar on an old monitor.
There you are. What do you want to watch this for? Maybe it's a test card.
No, she's crying, look.
Who's crying?
This woman on the screen. She's been there for ages.
It must have got damaged.
That's what I heard on the phone.
Turn it off.
Yes, turn it off.
Yes, turn it off. 35 years and still puts the shits up me. What's worse is sometimes the quality of the VHS this is taken from turns it into a documentary.
Please, let's turn it off. I hate that crying.
It's not crying.
For heaven's sake, just turn it off.
It's the same story with the hi-fi, turning it up to try and drown out the sound of crying, like my neighbours probably have to every night.
Shut up, listen.
Even making itself heard over Iron Maiden.
What the hell's going on? Are you mad? Turn that racket off! Hooligans! My God, you let them do exactly as they like 8 days a week until they're completely out of control.
Things build to a tense tea time, where Dad's yelling at everyone while the lights flicker. And there's no respite to be had in the radio.
It's that crying again.
Don't be ridiculous, it's interference.
Turn it off. Turn it off. Turn it off.
The child's hysterical.
Will you turn it off?
Episode 2 ends with a wild shot of the house from outside, and the children returning to the television. Though the quirky music slightly undercuts such a chilling image. Although at other points, it's a surprisingly John Carpenter-like score. Maybe Dad's arse is gonna fall off and turn into a big spider. By the final act, the electrics are completely out of control, and everything exasperating Dad's anger, which seems to make the interference worse, like a feedback loop.
Where are you going? Sit down.
The kids discover the radio doesn't pick up crying when it's out of the house.
The weather, a bright sunny afternoon, but cooler than yesterday.
Whatever it is, it can't reach this far. Anne says she wants to go home. She doesn't want to stay here anymore.
That's not because of the generator, though, is it?
I see. What do you think you're doing?
They decide the generator's haunted, and like paranormal Luddites, conspire to smash it in the dead of night. Only, Dad catches them in the act, which is where everything comes to a head.
Beatrice! Have you gone mad? What the blue bloody blazes is going on here?
Was she sleepwalking?
Sleepwalking? With a poker?
Hey, what's going on, Chris?
This child's out of her mind! Give me that thing!
Anne, stop it!
What kind of a madhouse do you keep when I'm not here?
When are you ever here? We never see you when you do turn up.
Oh, we should go away! Oh, we should go away! Oh, we should...
Quick reminder, teacher sat little kids down to watch this. But the slap's the final straw, and Dad leaves home again, this time for good. The fire and lamps are relit, and they're back in domestic bliss, finally able to breathe.
We're going to stay here.
For the time being. Till the holidays end, anyway.
Just us.
Just us.
There might not be anything wrong with the generator. Nothing serious. There's nothing wrong with the house.
No, there's nothing here now.
Here it's all but confirmed that the ghosts in the machine were a psychic manifestation of their fears and anxieties, and the crying woman a kind of technological tulpa for what the mother must have been feeling inside.
What do you think that's for? I thought you wanted it so badly.
I do, but not for making bread.
Then why do you think I got you one with dough hooks?
And sure enough, with Dad out of the house, the phone's now working again.
There's nothing else.
Rewatching as an adult, it's far more of a heavy domestic drama than the one scene which stuck with me. But decades on, interference still has the power to unsettle, with a pretty unflinching portrayal of an abusive family home for a junior schools programme, and a ghost which, if anything, is even worse than you remember, and all through the time-worn filter of a creepy analogue aesthetic. A kitchen sink early tech/folk horror, this wouldn't be out of place in a ghost story for Christmas, but was released instead into school classrooms. Jan Mark would adapt her script into a stage play, but I don't know if the feeling of dread would translate to a different medium, from a haunted television you were watching on a fuzzy old television. For those of us who witnessed it that way, it was once seen, never forgotten.
Gordon Bennett.